What do you say, everybody? Welcome to the Bama Insider YouTube channel. Great to talk to you today with the man himself, Mr. Andrew Bone, as we talk recruiting, Alabama recruiting. Make sure that you like and subscribe. Also, hit the thumbs up as you hang out with us today. And also, push that bell so that anytime we go live, you know we're live. I'm live, Bone, from Key West, Florida, in the Keys here, trying to enjoy a little downtime. You're in Birmingham. How's everything going, my friend?
It'd be going a lot better if I was down in Key West. That's where I had my bachelor party a couple of years ago. So I've had a good time down in Key West before. It's funny. We look back at last year and everything that happened with Urban Meyer being out at a bar late night. I was at a bar in Key West. I guess it was 4 years ago, and I forgot the name of the bar, but somebody said, "Hey, look, there's Urban Meyer," and Urban Meyer was sitting in the bar in Key West, and didn't see the blonde girl that that was in that photo, but he was hanging out I think he was like by I'm sure he wasn't by himself, but at the time I looked, he was by himself. So yeah, keep an eye out for Urban down there.
Well, look, you say that, and I was at Captain Tony's last night watching the Cowboys and the Buccaneers, and Urban Meyer there's one of the seats has his name on it there. So I'm guessing, it was Mike Leach's hangout, but there was an Urban Meyer stool. Like they had. maybe what if you were there when he was there, and that's they put that on the stool?
He was just sitting out. Urban Meyer once sat here.
No, every stool has like a name on it, and it I sat on Tom Cruise, but there was an Urban Meyer one. I was like, okay, does Urban Meyer gets a stool? Like, what are we doing? No, I'm just kidding. Look, he's a great coach.
He was at the Bucks game last night.
Oh, yeah, nice.
They showed him on the
Jumbotron.
Yeah, on the ESPN broadcast, they showed him being there. They showed him. Then it went from him to John Daly to Hulk Hogan. So,
oh, I love the Hulk.
The three biggest stars in America.
Yeah, love him. All right, well, look, I'm out here, and before you got on the air with us and everybody was here, we heard a loud crash. One of the iguanas had fell off of a tree. So if you hear something that sounds like a car wreck, it could be his friend looking for him. Just a word to the wise. But something else that dropped today, Bone, the On3 rankings.
They did. Yeah, they sure did. It's always interesting when rankings drop, especially the final ranking, because this is it. This is what's going to be in all the preseason magazines and the media guides, for all the different programs across the country. Of course, some will probably, not including, but I think that with Alabama, you should be really excited. I mean, there's 20 of your signees are in the top 300, and that includes 14 who are in the top 100. Just incredible job that Alabama was able to do. Now, there were some guys that dropped, but there were also some guys who moved up in the rankings. And I think anytime the recruiting guys sit down, they start trying to map out who's going to be in the top 10, who's going to be in the top 50, who's going to be in the top 100, the top 300. All those guys are, really looking at projections for 3 or 4 years down the road. They're not looking at how good they are in high school. Because a kid could throw 5,000, 6,000 yards in high school. Doesn't mean he's going to throw that many in college. Doesn't mean he's going to even start in college. So you're trying to evaluate guys based on how good they're going to be in the next 3 to 4 years. Are they going to be an instant impact player at a top program like an Alabama or Georgia? Are they potentially going to be a first-round NFL draft pick? And I posted this on our board earlier today. I said, you're not looking at a single rep. Somebody could get beat pretty easily in a single rep at an All-American game, but who cares? You're wanting to evaluate the overall player. You're looking at every little thing you possibly can, from the program that they're going to, from a developmental standpoint. You're looking at, their current size, Are they at their floor? What's their ceiling? Is there, what's their hand size? What's their length? You're looking at all those different things. How much better are these players going to be in the next 3 to 4 years? But also, are they going to be a first-round draft pick? And where are they going to get drafted in the first round? I see people. I've seen all these Alabama fans mad because Caleb Downs is ranked number 8 overall in the country. And no, there may not be there may not be 7 players better than Caleb Downs from a high school perspective. There may not be 7 players, going into college next year that are better than Caleb Downs. But we don't often see safeties drafted in the top 5 of the NFL draft. Being the number 8 overall player is an incredible amount of respect that's being shown there from the On3 staff, because even though he might be the best player in the country, I don't know if the top safety coming out of college is ever going to be drafted number 1 overall, or possibly even in the top 5. But they're going to a lot of those guys are going to be drafted in the top 10 if they're special. And Caleb Downs is a special talent. So being number 8 is incredible for him, and I think that On3 proved that with their ranking with him. Keon Keeley, huge move today from number 3 to number 2. We thought that there was a chance that he could potentially be that number 1 guy, especially after I'd heard that Arch Manning was not going to be number 1, and Arch had been number 1 throughout the entire year, but ends up not being number 1. Keon Keeley moves ahead of him. I talked to Charles Power, On3's rankings director, the other day, and he just had so many great things to say about Keon Keeley. Really just from seeing him at the All-American Bowl, doesn't believe he's a raw prospect, believe he has, an incredible array of pass rushing moves, believes that he is a special talent, can come in and make a big contribution early in his career, even though he's a late guy in the spring. He's not going to enroll at Alabama until June. He's still going to have an opportunity to potentially see the field. That's how talented this guy is. Now, we did see James Smith. He remained in the top 10. So Alabama has they have 3 signees in the top 10. Keon Keeley at number 2, Caleb Downs at number 8, and then James Smith right there at number 10. All 3 of those guys finished number 1 at their position, with Downs number 1 safety, Keeley the number 1 edge, James Smith number 1 defensive lineman. Now, we did see 2 new 5-star additions for Alabama, and somebody's calling me right now, and not going to.
I heard about these rankings. They got to dig right in. You're telling me Arch Manning's not number 1, Bone? I mean, how did that happen?
Yeah,
he's a
right.
Manning. Haven't you seen the Manning cast?
Sorry. But you look at the 2 guys that moved up to 5 stars, and now Caden Proctor. Caden Proctor's been a consensus 5-star, based on all the averages of all the different ranking sites. But he had not been a 5-star at On3. He had been, I think, somewhere in the top 50, but he wasn't a 5-star. On3 got a chance to finally see him in person, rather than just basing off of his film, basing off of all the offers that he had. They wanted to see him in person and properly evaluate him in person. And they finally had an opportunity to do that this past weekend, 2 weekends ago, during the All-American Bowl, and clearly he made a strong impression. Moves up to 5 stars, and bam, right there, the On3 consensus 5-star plus ranking. That means he is a 5-star on every recruiting site. So if you go to On3, you see 5 stars, and then you see that little red plus next to their names. That means they are a 5-star on every single site. So props to Caden Proctor for that accomplishment. And then Yanze Pierre, new 5-star. On3's always been kind of ahead of everyone else. I remember a few years, or last year when we were over at a different site, and I kept telling the guys, Yanze Pierre, he's one of the better recruits in the state of Alabama. I felt like he was a top 5, potentially top 3 overall player, and just never really moved up. And I think a lot of that had to do with he didn't go to any camps. Didn't really get seen by a lot of people. We heard a lot of great things about Yanze at Alabama's camp, but that was the only camp he went to. So he didn't get seen by really anybody else. And Alabama doesn't allow media to attend their camp. So you don't have national and regional and local reporters lining up the sideline, taking notes and evaluating these guys. So you got to wait and see them, when you can. And Janze luckily got a late invite to the All-American Bowl. I mean, I think the All-American Bowl had pretty much wrapped up all of their invites, and then he received an invite, I think during the I want to say he got the invite sometime during the fall, and goes out there and just completely dominates. So, On3 had him in the top 35 for the last several months, but going out to San Antonio, performing the way that he did, he was clearly a 5-star recruit, and I think his ceiling is so high because I think he's still pretty raw. He's only about 200 and somewhere between 218, 220 right now. That guy's going to continue to get bigger, going to continue to get stronger. I mean, he has an incredible first step coming off the edge. And I think that you look at this linebacker class and how special that, it can really be, here in the future, with Janze Pierre, with Quay Rousseau, with Keon Keeley, Justin Jefferson. I mean, just an unbelievable group that Alabama's been able to bring in this class, and he's certainly one of those, one of those top end guys. But overall, there were, like I said, 14 in the top 100, 20 overall. I think the new addition was Bray Hubbard in the top 100. So shout out to Bray. Ocean Springs, Mississippi, won Mr. Football back-to-back years. He never played safety before. We've talked about this before. He goes to Alabama's camp, earns a committable offer from Nick Saban, playing safety for the very first time. So the rankings guys aren't going to just go off of that. They're not going to just say, okay, he's a 4-star recruit because, Nick Saban extended him an offer, playing safety position, but we don't have a single lick of film on this kid playing safety, but that's the position he's going to play in college. You look at him, you say, man, he's a pretty good athlete. He's won Mr. Football, won it again. Right. Puts up these crazy numbers each week, but you're still going to college to play a position that nobody's ever seen you play before. So you couldn't really say, all right, he's a 4-star, he's a 5-star. So he ended up playing a little bit of safety towards the end of his senior season. Got some film out there, then played in the Alabama-Mississippi All-Star game. Charles Power was out there. He also got a chance to see his film and, was really impressed with the little bit of film that he seen. Now, he wasn't playing safety all year long. He was still the starting quarterback for his high school team and went far in the playoffs before falling. But I think that, the small sample size that Charles Power and the On3 guys were able to see, that was enough. And, they felt, certainly felt like he was worthy enough to move up into that, not only just snuck in to the top, 300. He's number 227. So that's right. That's a pretty significant bump there for Bray Hubbard. And we were already hearing there were some guys that enrolled or at least joined the team for bowl practice before the Sugar Bowl, and Bray Hubbard was one of those guys. And we had heard about a couple names that had actually stood out from that freshman group. Are from the 2023 group because Malik Benson, JUCO guy, he came in and turned some heads. But Bray Hubbard was one of those guys that we had heard about during bowl practice, performing really well. So we'll see what Bray's able to do. I think he's a great athlete, though, and I'm really intrigued just because of how confident Alabama was in his abilities. Seeing him, for the very first time at camp, giving him a green light to commit, because a lot of times you go to Alabama's camp, you might get offered. They're still going to, kind of comb through everybody else, make sure there's nobody else out there that might be higher on the board, or, a lot of those offers aren't committable right away. Well, his was. And so that should say a lot. And, like I said, he had a great senior year and already enrolled at Alabama. But that's kind of a look at the overall rankings. I know we kind of talked about that for a good But yeah,
That's a big deal. It's a big deal. And guys, if you want to,
sorry.
well, say this, Bone. If you want to follow Bone and you want to keep up with everything going on, remember it's BamaInsider.com, right? That's the place you can go. You buy the subscription. It's either $9.99 a month, or right now you can get, which is a great deal, $29.99, get you all the way until August 31st. So, Bone's out there. He's got all of the weapons at his disposal. That is On3. You're not begging anyone to change players' star rankings like we used to have to, right? You're like, hey, we got him as a 2-star. Everybody else has him as a 4-star. I think he's a 4-star. You got the best of the best working with you right now, Bone, at On3.
Yeah, I certainly do. Of course, it's not me; it's Shannon and Terry. But I'm really excited about the future, the guys that work at On3 now, because they're great evaluators. I'm more of an information guy.
Yeah.
I did the evaluation part for several years. Going out to high school football games, going out to every single camp that I possibly could, 7-on-7s. I'm more of the information guy these days. So, Joseph does a great job going out on the road, but the guys who are going out every single day that work at On3, going to different high schools, going, traveling as much as they can. They're going to high school football games Thursday and Friday, Saturday. They're, missing a lot of time, with their family, which, is part of it, but, they understand it and they go out and do such a great job. And, they're always going to get heat anytime rankings drop from numerous fan bases, because people are going to always think that this player should be ranked higher than that player. But I always tell people, listen, you don't know, I don't know. The guys who are doing the rankings, they don't know 100%.
Right.
We're not.
They're trying to figure it out. They're trying to figure it out.
Not an exact science, and you're not going to know until 3 or 4 years down the road. Now, there's going to be some instances where there are going to be some guys that are going to stand out as freshmen, stand out as sophomores. But how are they going to be, in year 3? Are they going to get drafted in that first round? There's nobody that you can confidently say 100% they're going to get drafted in the first round. There might be some that, hey, they're on that track. Caleb Downs, a Keon Keeley, a Caden Proctor, a Jan Zapier, a Quay Rousseau, a James Smith. They might be on that track, but they got to stay on that track and develop and work hard and keep their head,
right.
straight and narrow path, because, we see so many kids that have, been in that, top 10, top 5, overall players in the country. And then all of a sudden, they get kicked out of school. They get, they transfer. Some of these guys transferred 4 or 5 times. They still might have all the talent in the world, but guess what? They're probably not going to end up getting drafted in the top group. So,
yeah. Well, let me ask you this, Bone. And I want to ask you about the early enrollees at Alabama. And kind of swinging that into the guys who are coming early. And then, congratulations to Ryan Williams for winning Mr. Football in Alabama. But you were just talking about, the success that a guy has. Do you have more success when you're an early enrollee? And who are those guys at Alabama? Does it increase your ability to have success when you come early? Is that why so many guys are doing it now?
There's always going to be some players that, even if they enroll in June, or maybe they get there in August, they still might have a chance to contribute as freshmen. But if you can get there in January, if you can get around the team, if you can get acclimated with everything, if you can go through the 4th quarter program, you can go through all the winter workouts, go through spring practice, and just being around your team and learning from the coaches, and kind of getting a really good feel on how they like to do everything. It's very beneficial, and you see more and more kids doing it these days. I mean, 25, Alabama signees are early enrollees.
Wow. That's like the whole class.
Yeah, pretty much. I think there's 4 guys that did not enroll early, which Keon Keeley was one of those guys. Jan Zapier is one of those guys. So you got 2 5-stars, that were not early enrollees, as much as they, certainly wish that they were already there, but not early enrollees for them. A think there's two others, Connor Talty, and looking through that list right there, I can't even remember who the other one was. But that said, yeah, I think anytime you can get on campus and especially at a position of need, you look at Malik Benson. I think Malik Benson coming in top junior college prospect in the country. I think he's going to have an incredible opportunity to contribute early. I think Caleb Downs, another guy that's going to have an opportunity. Caden Proctor, Alabama's lost some guys on the offensive line to the transfer portal. Does he potentially come in and develop and get on the field early on? I think he's got a great chance to contribute right away. So there's certainly a lot of guys in this class that there's going to be a microscope on them, from the coaching staff, from the fan base, from everybody over the course of the next couple of years. But especially with the guys that are already there now, who's going to come in and make an early impact? I always think, junior college players, Malik Benson, Justin Jefferson, those are two guys that are going to have an opportunity. And then, some of those other guys that I mentioned, like Downs and Proctor, Justice Haynes, another guy that we could see potentially. Oh, Richard Young. Richard Young was the fourth guy that not an early enrollee, but everybody else, I mean, it's you never know who might end up sticking out a little bit more, who might be a little bit ahead of everybody else heading into the spring or heading into the fall, because, it's like a couple years ago. And this is no knock on this guy because he's had a tremendous impact at Alabama. But we saw Malachi Moore as a true freshman. He played a lot more than Brian Branch did, but then Brian Branch, over the course of the last 2 years, kind of replaced him. Malachi still played a lot, but Branch was kind of that guy that everybody kind of thought going into his freshman, that freshman class, that Branch had a bigger opportunity, that he was going to be the one that was going to start out right away and make a big impact. But it was Malachi Moore. And, that could be said with, potentially some of these other guys in this recruiting class. We could see some guys that might play early, but then potentially fall back because some of the other guys may develop a little bit later, may end up going ahead of them here in the next year or two. So that's something that we're also going to, watch and also, keep our eye on.
Always great to get all this information from you, Andrew Bone. And as I mentioned, guys, hanging out with you on the BamaInsider YouTube channel is always fun. We do this every Tuesday, so make sure you like and subscribe, all you guys in the comments section. Great to see you. It's always awesome hanging out and seeing all the different comments that people have about Alabama recruiting. And, of course, having the #1 recruiting class, and things just keep getting better. And that front, it is really exciting. Let's talk about Junior Day. Everybody wants to know about Junior Day, Bone, and your take on Junior Day. We heard a little bit of it on Monday Night Quarterback with Joseph, but now we can kind of really dig into it. He just kind of gave us a little dip of it. How was Junior Day? First one for Alabama.
First one, and it's kind of a smaller group, and that's kind of how Alabama likes it, especially in January, especially when you're still trying to figure out your coaching staff and still trying to figure out, who's going to be that defense coordinator, who's going to be that offense coordinator. You don't, necessarily have those guys in Tuscaloosa, recruiting for you right now. So those junior days are a little bit smaller, but they did have some, big guys on campus this past weekend. You look at, 3 commitments who were in town. Jalen Mbakwe, he's top 10 overall player in the country out of Clay Chalkboy. Ryan Williams will be a top 10 overall player in the country by the time he's a senior. Out of Saralam, Ryan won Mr. Football last week. He's only a sophomore, first sophomore to ever win Mr. Football in the state of Alabama after his incredible sophomore campaign. So great season for Ryan. And then Sterling Dixon, top 100 edge rusher out of Mobile Christian, was also in town. Sterling was probably the one that I wanted to talk to more than anybody, just because of Pete Golding's departure on Friday. Pete, Sterling had a really good relationship with each other, talked all the time. But, Pete ends up leaving. Auburn had 2 coaches at Sterling's high school on Friday. He's obviously going to be a top target for Auburn, going to be a top target for a lot of schools, but he committed to Alabama. on December the 1st. And, I had an opportunity to speak to him on Sunday evening. Asked him about meeting with Austin Armstrong, and he just absolutely raved about Alabama's new assistant coach on the defense side of the ball. Austin Armstrong was, I guess it wasn't I guess Alabama's never officially named it, but it was reported that he was joining the staff. He's changed his Twitter profile picture to an Alabama logo, so we know he's out there recruiting for Alabama now. And Sterling Dixon said, "This is a guy that I knew when he was coaching at Southern Miss." So kind of gave me some vibes of when Coach Wolford came to Alabama last year, or Travaris Robinson came to Alabama. A lot of the guys that signed with Tide, those guys had been recruiting them prior to them arriving in Tuscaloosa. They'd been recruiting them, at their previous schools. So
right.
Austin Armstrong, even though he was at Southern Miss, he was still in contact with a lot of top guys, trying to get, a guy like Sterling Dixon to come visit Southern Miss, and had reached out to him. And Sterling said, "This is a guy that I trust with my life." He said, "I absolutely love him. Have an unbelievable relationship with him. Made him feel a lot better about his commitment to Alabama." Not to say that he didn't feel good about his commitment, but anytime there's a defensive coordinator change, and you're one of the top, I guess he's one of the only defensive recruits in the class. You're always kind of wondering, are you upset by that? Are you going to start listening to other schools? Are you on flip watch, or are you considering reopening your recruitment and taking a look at other schools? But after talking to him on Sunday evening, it certainly seemed like, or I guess it was Sunday morning, certainly seemed like he was very locked in with his commitment after visiting Alabama. He said it was the best visit he's had up to this point to any school. He still might take some visits, but he also said the only school he's focused in on right now is Alabama. He's focused in on getting back to Tuscaloosa as much as he can throughout the spring, continuing to develop the relationship with those guys, in his class, but also the guys who are already on campus. But they had some top commitments on campus on Saturday, but they also had some guys that are going to be top targets for them, throughout the next several months. Daniel Hill, athlete out of Meridian High School, listed as an athlete pretty much everywhere, but Alabama likes him more as a running back. I mean, this is kind of a 6 foot, 225 pound, just amazing football player that I'm not sure he's not getting enough love just yet, from a lot of the sites. I think he's got a chance to really make a big impact and make a big move up in the rankings here in the next few months. Daniel Hill is certainly a top priority target for Alabama. I think Alabama's in really good shape early on with him. Arian Hampton out of Texas also received an offer from Alabama this weekend. Former Texas commitment. They really like this kid a lot. Has a lot of speed, had an unbelievable junior season, and certainly somebody that we're going to be paying very close attention to over the next maybe even the next few weeks, but certainly over the next few months. And one other guy I'll mention, D'Angelo Barber. Didn't know a bunch about D'Angelo coming into the weekend. This was a guy that ended up getting an offer from the Crimson Tide. He's about 6 feet tall, 205, 210 pounds at this point. Out of Clay Chalkville, his teammate Jalen Mbakwe only had an offer from Louisville heading into the weekend. Then Alabama ends up extending him an offer. So he's certainly somebody that we're going to be paying really close attention to, especially if Alabama decides to make a push to go ahead and get him on board. But he's certainly a guy that I feel like could easily end up in the Tide's recruiting class, maybe even before the spring.
Good stuff, Bone. As always, love hearing it. It seems like there's always somebody that's lingering, though, they're not signing. You want to add one more. I feel like no matter how many spots Alabama has or they don't have, they can always add one more. And so as we move to the end of the show, tell us about Armani McClain. I mean, what's the latest on him? Is there a chance that he comes to Alabama?
You probably know more than I would on Cormani. Cormani's
Sorry, Cormani. Yeah.
Oh, I thought you just cut out.
Oh, good. I cut out. Yeah.
That's right. Cormani has been interesting because he told people that he was going to announce a decision on January the 15th. Past January the 15th, clearly. So no decision has yet to be made. He said that he kind of indicated that he was not in Colorado this past weekend, and then all of a sudden on Sunday, posted a lot of photos from his official visit to Colorado. Of course, one of them was him making a snow angel. And I always tell people, I'm like, you got a guy going to Colorado for the first time ever from Lakeland, from Lakeland, Florida. He's committed to Miami. His top over Alabama, Miami, and Florida. Then you go out and you see, all this snow and you start playing in it. And I'm like, people can automatically assume that he's going there, but I don't know. I mean, you just don't know if that's something that he's just, comes back home and says, I don't want to be part of that. I'm not going to be cold all my years in college. So I don't know. I mean, I do know that Alabama has been in contact with him, as late as Sunday. I don't know if they've still been talking to him on Monday and Tuesday of this week, but I know as of Sunday they were still in communication. There's some things that I think Cormani's looking for in some schools, and I don't know if Alabama's necessarily going to go that route with him. But also think that there is a spot in Alabama's class. If he wants it, they're willing to give it to him. So we'll see what happens. In my opinion, it could go a few different ways. I don't think that Miami's probably in a good spot just because the Miami coaching staff showed up as high school on Friday and he was nowhere to be found, and they had no idea. So when you're the school that he's committed to, and you don't have a clue where this kid is, and he's actually in Colorado, that seems to be a major issue. So be surprised if he ends up sticking with Miami, but we're just all kind of in the same boat. Nobody knows what's happening with him. He doesn't talk to anybody. His family doesn't talk to anybody. His high school coaches don't seem to really know what's going on in his recruitment. So everybody's just trying to play this whole guessing game right now and throwing out speculation as to what he's going to do. But the only people that really know what's going on is Cormani and his family. And
right.
Maybe they may, and guess what? Maybe they don't know. They may not know what he's going to do yet. He might end up taking another official visit this month before making that final decision. I think, with him not announcing on January the 15th, as he had originally said, maybe he's not real sure what he wants to do. And, maybe he wants to just keep on taking these visits. So that's really the only guy as of right now that I would say that, we're kind of paying attention to. Deuce Robinson, 5-star tight end out of Arizona, has yet to make a decision, but in Alabama's in his top 4, top 5. I just don't see that happening at all. And I don't think, Alabama expects that to happen at all. I mean, I think they're pretty much okay with their tight end group. I mean, they were able to get Ty Lockwood signed, enrolled. They will get transfer portal tight end and CJ Dupree, who's already on campus. So, they're pretty. They would certainly take him, but I don't think they're expecting him, and they're not necessarily going after another tight end at this point. But Cormani's pretty much the only guy that we're paying pretty close attention to right now to see what's going to happen with him in the end.
Awesome, guys. Love hanging out with you. And again, if you're with us on this show, make sure you like and subscribe to the Bama Insider YouTube channel. Give us a thumbs up, man. That's a way of saying Roll Tide, and then hit the bell. And anytime we do a live show, anytime we put a video on, you'll know. And it's not just Recruiting with Bone. I know it's your favorite show, but you can also watch Monday Night Quarterback. Anytime Nick Saban talks, we're going to put it on here. If there's a transfer, if there's a coach that's leaving or coming, we're going to have that information for you. This is your home for all of that. And if you can't get enough Alabama, and I know there's a lot of you that feel this way, BamaInsider.com. Now that we're part of On3, you want to be a part of that as well. $29.99. You get all of the content. You get all the Recruiting with Bone. You get, the message board with Clint Lamb and Jimmy Stein. a lot of new surprises that are yet to come. $9.99 a month, $29.99 if you want to give us a commitment that goes from right now until August 31st. Bone, anything that I didn't get to today?
I think we pretty much covered it today. I mean, I know Alabama's got a basketball game tonight.
Bama's pretty good at basketball right now. I don't ever remember like seeing a basketball team, a Maryland basketball team when I was growing up. They were good like this. This Alabama basketball team resembles a national championship team. I don't know if they're going to get there. You have to get breaks and all that kind of stuff. Your guys are going to have to hit some big shots. There's so many things that have to fall in place, but this is a really good team.
They're legit. I mean, I went to their game against Kentucky, and they look great. But then, seeing what they did, this past weekend, it'll be interesting, kind of see what happens tonight at Vanderbilt. Always a tough place to play, and that with everything that's going on with the basketball team right now, kind of where you kind of wait to see kind of where their head's going to be, going into this game. But this would even though Vanderbilt's not, I don't even know what their record is right now, but I think this would be a really good win for them to kind of not necessarily move past the unfortunate news that happened this past weekend.
Yeah,
their Smile situation, but I think it'd be a good win for them just to get their heads cleared and kind of move forward with the season.
Yeah, tough one, man. That whole situation's bad. We talked about it last night, and they're gonna have to, get focused, and really shut down all the stuff going on. In the real world, and the thing about sports, when you submerge your life in it, a lot of times you forget that there's stuff going on outside there, and boy, it's a tough situation.
Absolutely. I mean, prayers to the families that are all affected and involved there. I mean, nobody wants this to ever happen. So, yeah, definitely prayers to them, and prayers to the Georgia community as well for their losses this past weekend.
Yeah, I'm with you on that too. All right, well, that does it for this week's edition of Recruiting with Andrew Bone, the best in the business, the guru himself, and we appreciate all you guys for hanging out with us on the message board. And again, we appreciate you being here. We'll be back next Tuesday with another edition of Recruiting with Andrew Bone. So for Andrew himself and Chris Daughtry behind the scenes and Kyle Henderson, who puts all this together, I'm Mick Gillispie. Thanks for hanging out with us tonight, guys. Roll Tide.